Hello and welcome to Allegedly Astrology. We have a very special guest today on the pod, Ricky Williams. He is an astrologer, app founder, retired NFL player, Heisman Trophy winner, one of the most interesting people we've ever met. He's a friend of the pod. He came on in 2023 to talk to us about Super Bowl predictions, which we will have to point out that he was spot on with. And yeah, so Ricky, welcome. Tell us about yourself, if you don't mind letting our listeners know your big three.
Yeah, of course. So my big three, and I will say one of my innovations that I think to bring to the astrological world that I've found so rich is a big four.
Ooh.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And the fourth one is what I call the strongest planet. And that's something that it's funny. I'm an app founder and I was an app founder first, but I realized that the developers didn't speak astrology and I didn't speak code. So it was tricky, so tricky. And so I started to try to teach myself a little bit and I just got hooked. And so now I've started creating apps. I create apps too. And one of the things that motivated me was the strongest planet algorithm and learning to code it so that I could start to use it and disseminate it. So my strongest planet is the moon. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'm a Gemini sun, Cancer moon, and a Virgo rising.
Okay.
Very hyperfixation on getting an app just right with the third.
Exactly. That's all I do all day.
And tell us a little bit about your app, Leela. Why did you start it? What did you feel was missing in some of the other apps like CoStar and some of the other ones other people might be more familiar with?
Yeah. We actually started it right around the time CoStar launched. CoStar started to get popular.
Okay.
And so when we launched it, we weren't even really in competition or trying to do something different because they were so new. So just having an astrologer in your pocket, the technology was to a point where everyone could have access to this information. And the problem that we were motivated to solve was really a relationship problem. I had just divorced my first wife and I was building a relationship with my current wife, Linnea, and ending one relationship and starting a new relationship is just, it's tricky. Relationships are tricky, but that's one tricky point. And because I was using astrology to navigate that, and when I met Linnea, she knew no astrology, but she took an interest. And so it became like our thing. And it helped us navigate ending of one, beginning of a new relationship, and get to know each other on a deep level and create something that we were really connected to. So it was on my 40th birthday, and we were taking a class with my teacher, Stephen Forrest, in San Diego, and it was a synastry class. And I've been studying astrology for about 12 years at this point, but I'd never really taken a deep dive into synastry. So 4 days, Linnea and I sat in the back of the room listening to Steve teach. And on the last day, Steve pulls a name out of the hat to demonstrate the technique. So it was my 40th birthday, and of course, he pulled my name out of the hat. And so we sat there and we listened to Steve spend the whole day going through our synastry, Linnea and my synastry.
Oh, wow.
And we sat there, we were like, what we're doing right here is something that the world really needs to be able to navigate relationships better. And so when Leela started, it was a relationship app. But as we started to try to sell it, people kept calling it a dating app. And at that time, people were tired of dating apps. And so we pivoted and we said, okay, let's make it a relationship with yourself app. So we made it more about a reflection app. And then people wanted more. And so we built it out more. But it really is a way for people to appreciate themselves and their journey. The word Leela means the divine play. And the way we look at it, life is a divine play, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it. And to me, connecting to the astrology of it helps to see the bigger picture and realize, okay, there's something bigger going on. And for me, that's one of the most powerful things in astrology.
And
100%.
yeah, Ricky and I have talked about this before, but I always say women find astrology through romance, right? They want to know their synastry they're like, oh, is a Virgo and a Scorpio, are they compatible? But Ricky, one of the things that you said before to us is compatibility is a choice.
Yes.
It's not, oh, you're not completely compatible with this person, but you have to understand how they might process emotions, how they might communicate. And a lot of that starts with understanding yourself, right? Not everyone understands themselves, but it's not so cut and dry like everyone thinks, oh, these two signs should never be together.
And what I've found that is a vital piece of that question is it depends on what you're doing.
I like that.
It's like a Scorpio and a Virgo. If you're doing Scorpio Virgo things and you can appreciate what each of you bring to the equation, off. That's compatibility.
Exactly.
If you're trying to be like all like slightly and emotionally sharing with the triple Capricorn, right, that's not compatible. So it's a choice and it depends on what you're doing.
Exactly.
If you want to spend all day to get a little bit of a hug and that's satisfying to you, then that's compatible.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
God. Yes. Okay, yeah. So I guess in my big four, then, Dana, do you know your strongest planet?
Yes. I've
Okay.
been using the app every day, Leela.
I know you do, but so my big three would be I'm an Aries sun, a Sagittarius moon, Capricorn rising, and Saturn is my strongest planet, much to my dismay.
Yes. Well, to me, this is an interesting case because all the fire and then the Capricorn rising, and just that, it would be like 2-to-1 fire to Earth. But when you add the Capricorn right there, the Saturn in Capricorn as the strongest planet, then it helps explain, right, why someone might look at the chart and say, you don't seem so
Right.
fiery.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Dana, what about you?
I'm a Gemini sun, a Sagittarius moon, a Leo rising, and a Jupiter strongest planet, a Jupiter and Gemini strongest planet,
Interesting.
which I was excited about
Jupiter
because
rule. Jupiter's
in
strongest planet.
yeah, it's traditionally in detriment, but in Astrodyne, it's strong. So maybe my detriments are just strong. But
The thing what's interesting about this is in Astrodyne's detriment, debilitation, exaltation, domicile, etc., it's measured in a different dimension. It's measured in harmony and discord. So a planet in detriment has more discord than a planet in its exaltation. So it's
right.
accounted for, but it's not accounted for by power. Because something is easier, it doesn't make it more powerful. It makes it, you pay attention to it and you move in that direction, things will be easier. But if it's not a powerful urge or you don't want to do it all the time, then it doesn't even occur unless you're conscious about it.
That's such a good point, and also illuminating on how I feel about power. I'm so interested. I've done Astrodyne reports before on, I don't know, AstroWin or wherever you can get them. But
Yeah.
I've never really looked into it. So I think it's so exciting because I don't know anywhere else. I use every single astrology app. I look them up like at least twice a month. And it's so like cool and unique. And I don't know. I think that's nuts.
So I have an app and I'll send you a link to it. We call it Leela Pro. And there's a section called Astrostats where it goes into detail about how astrodynes are calculated. So you can go and see that. So for instance, power is based on house strength. So planets and angles get more power, etc. And then aspects. The more aspects a planet makes and the tighter the aspects, the more powerful the planet will be
Oh,
because it's affecting more things.
that's really easy to understand. I like that.
Yeah. It's simple and it's blowing my mind.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we love the Leela app over here on Allegedly Astrology, and we'll obviously drop a link to it in the show notes. But one of my favorite features is the sort of like time machine feature. When you were wondering like what was going on during this breakup or what was going on when I got fired from my job, and you can go back and look to see what was happening. I love that. I love that feature. And so I'm curious to hear about this newest feature about past lives. So I am a total newbie to past life astrology. I believe in past lives 100%, but I don't really know how it relates to astrology. So I would love to hear what your interest is and why you think it's an important feature in the app.
Yeah. So my training is when I decided to take astrology seriously, reflected on one of my favorite books, and Stephen Ford's kept coming up over and over again. And so I showed up at Norway one year at a big astrology conference. I was stalking him. And he spoke, and it's funny, I came up to him, and his first thing he ever said to me was, "Don't hurt me."
What's it?
Yeah, it's crazy. He's crazy like that.
Yeah.
But then and I was trying to like pull the card and say, "Hey, I'm a professional football player and I'd love to get a reading." And he's Capricorn, straight face. He said, "Yeah." He's like, "I got a waiting list for 2 years." He said, "You are," and he knows 7. And then he's like,
Wow.
And then he said, but I have an apprenticeship program. And so look online and come learn. And so the first class I ever did, it was Stephen doing the South Node of the Moon technique, which is past life stories.
Ooh.
And I think it's 4 days sitting in front of him, and I'd say this seriously, a master of this technique. And he just would tell, he would look at a chart, he'd put the chart up, and you'd see the South Node and the configuration, and he would translate the astrology into a narrative, into a story. And the idea is he's not saying this is what happened to you in a past life. What he's saying is that the symbols, because he's not going to claim that we know exactly what happened, but we can tell a story that's going to hit on the same themes that will bring up the energy of that memory.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I think the significance of, and this is the way I describe it to people, the South Node represents a memory. And the power of a memory is when you see life, we see life through memories, through the past. And so a lot of times with the South Node, it's an assumption that we make about the world based on a memory from the past. And since from the time of the past, things have changed. And so I'll tell a South Node story. So my wife, she has the moon and hard aspect to the South Node. And the way Stephen interprets this is something about children, domestic responsibilities was challenging in moon and hard aspect. So my wife has moon and hard aspect to the South Node, and after the third miscarriage, she got pregnant, and she was totally afraid that something bad was going to happen. And I was looking at her South Node, and it made me think of a movie. And so we put on the movie, we watched it, and after the movie, she took a bath, and we were sitting there, and she like really connected to something like profound about fear of what happens when you have a child. And the movie is one of the Candyman movies where a slave is hired because he's a great artist to paint one of the owner's daughters. And they fall in love, and she gets pregnant and has a kid. And then they take the kid and they take him and they kill him, essentially. And so Linnea, my wife, is white, and obviously I'm black. So we watched the movie, and she's sitting in the bathtub, and we're sitting there. And I said, if that was the past, look around. We're in a different time. Things are different. You know? And it's like something hit her, and she started bawling for
Oh
about
my
20
gosh.
for like 2 minutes, and then the tension and angst around the pregnancy eased, you know? And now we have a healthy child.
I love
It's really,
that.
really powerful.
That's so
It's kind of
powerful. Wow.
asking someone and saying, "Wake up! It's different now." You just have to notice it.
But that internalized fear
Yes.
is that you don't realize maybe that it's there.
Also,
Yeah.
being in the baths where it like lets up is so profound. You're in the
Yeah.
womb again.
Yeah, yes. Wow.
Yeah. And in this chart, in your chart, the theme of the moon and hard aspect to the South Node and things around the fifth house, it's the power. That's why the timing of this to me is interesting. The powerful fears, themes in your chart around children and mothering responsibilities.
Obviously, for those who don't know,
So-
I am pregnant with twins.
Yeah.
So that would make a lot of sense. And there is definitely a lot of fear
Yes.
that I am dealing with.
Yeah. It like jumps out in the South Node. It's
Really
like,
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I was going to look at my past lives in the Leela app, what would it would tell me the story, but what would it give me further advice? Or like how would I get to that breakthrough moment that Linnea
Okay. Yeah.
help me?
Yeah. So currently, this conversation really is getting the ball rolling.
Okay, good.
So the synchronicities here are mind blowing, but maybe we'll get to that later.
Okay.
The first thing right now in Leela is there's general content about the South Node. And Stephen's perspective on the South Node, it's something that we have to watch out for. A lot of people interpret it as it's negative, and it's not negative. It's just a repetitive pattern. And it's
Mhm.
tricky because a lot of times a repetitive pattern is something that we became really good at. So it's safe. It's habit. And so to me, it's not about that it's bad. It's just being aware of it. I think of it as like a motorboat because the South Node traditionally represents the past. And you think you're on a motorboat where the motor's right here, but you pull it and it take off in that direction. Then if you're too focused on the motorboat, meaning you're going too fast and you're not focused enough on steering, then you're going to crash. So the advice with the South Node is recognize the motor, recognize the habit, the tendency, right? And then the North Node is the opposite. So it's just saying, pay more attention to the opposite side And those gifts and those things from the past, those habits will serve you better. Uh,
Okay.
so the teaching is moving from the south node to in the direction of the north node. And a lot of astrology, they attribute a lot of significance to the north node.
Yeah.
My teacher says the north node has no power in and of itself. It's just an intention. That the
So
power resides in the past. And that makes sense. The power resides in the past, in the habitual behavior. And the way forward is to bring balance to something that we probably leaned into a little bit too much.
Wow.
that's
Okay.
brilliant. My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, so me sitting there and listening to Steve do this, because someone who appreciates astrology, the technique is elegant and the astrological symbols come alive. So just as a technician, Virgo rising, I'm in love with this technique. Oh, it's beautiful because it weaves technical astrology with poetry
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
history because we're
it
talking
does.
about the past. So yeah, so right now it's just general watch out for this, move in this direction. But what we're working on that'll be released in the next week, this week, is the South Node story generator.
Oh
And
yeah.
it takes the technique as taught by Steve in yesterday's Sky Stevens books. And I trained AI to take someone's chart to apply the technique and to generate a story. So it's like psychological edutainment is how
I like that.
I would describe the purpose of it, because it's a story, and if the story and then it's about your chart. So if we trained it well, it's going to hit certain buttons that are going to bring up energy, that are going to bring up ideas and thoughts. And I think for me, at a simple level, just making things more conscious. Because the
Mhm.
nature of the sound of memory, we're not conscious of it. It's just like a feeling. But once we start to, through the stories, we start to become more conscious of it, we start to recognize a pattern in our lives. And then we start to think more about the North Node. And it's cool, right? So it's more, and everything we do with Leela is trying to make astrology experiential, to
Mm.
actually apply it to your life and see how to appreciate how it expresses, how it manifests through your everyday experiences.
I
That's
I
so cool.
appreciate that so much because I feel like I can get and then also I noticed that like our peers on Astro Twitter would just get so engrossed in like the technicalities, which can be exciting, but there's a lot, even just when you elucidated the Astro Dines in terms of being like strong is not necessarily being good.
Yeah.
Um,
It only means you have to deal with it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Okay. So this is very cool. So in childhood, I had a very I don't know if I would say unnatural, but fascination with the Holocaust.
Mhm.
And I'm not Jewish, but I like begged my mom when I was like 7 to find me a Holocaust survivor I could meet with in person. And I don't know why my mother indulged me, but she
Mhm.
did. And so I've always like grown up. My mom was like, maybe you were in the Holocaust in a past life. And so in my mind, I'm like, why was I so drawn to this subject? I don't know. It could have just been like an interest. But so you're not going to go into Leela's past life story and you're not going to tell a tale of, oh, Elise, you were in Nazi Germany fighting for your life. That's not the story that you're going to see, correct? It's
So
not going to be like that specific.
it will be.
Oh,
Yeah.
we love that. Okay.
It will be, but again, it's psychological edutainment.
Okay.
It's articulating the archetype. The
Yes,
experience.
in the form of a historical narrative, because it allows it to be more personal. you know?
Okay.
It allows it to be more. And the way I selected it, the way I did it, because Steve, when he does it, he'll look at it and he'll get a story and he'll place it in some time in the past.
Okay.
And training AI to do that, I didn't want it to be random, but someone can select random, but I have a list of different time periods. So if
Oh,
someone felt connected to a certain time period, it would take the context of that time period and their chart and their South Node configuration and create a story based in that time period.
whoa.
And it's fascinating because different configurations will express differently depending on the time period someone is in, depending on their gender, depending on their class. And so I had problems. So people
Wow.
can choose different classes, even different themes of stories. Some are dark, some are more uplifting, different ways to engage with the archetypes of the South Node configuration.
This is so cool.
Whoa, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this feature to come out. I can't wait to read mine.
It's also so
It's
cool, sorry, that you said that different aspects will express differently in different periods because it takes the outer planet transit so much into account, which can show someone like their different potentials in a way that seems really
Mm.
unique.
yeah. An example of someone as Uranus conjunct the South Node. That's indicating that in whatever story, this person was a rebel. So if you put it in different context, different time periods, how that rebellion works out for them, it's gonna look different. It's gonna look different.
Oh,
And another thing is, I say to my students, I say that the astrologer's greatest gift is our ears, our ability to hear what the person says. And so we're talking to someone, and the South Node comes up in past lives, and the person offers the information about the Holocaust. Okay? And I look at the chart, and the South Node is in the eighth house in Virgo. Okay? To me, that sounds like a concentration camp.
fascinating.
Especially
Wow.
ruled by Mercury in Aries.
And so
On
so yes, the next step of the South Node technique is to look at where's the ruler at the South Node. And if we look at the ruler of the South Node, we find Mercury in the second house in Aries. And the technique we would see this Mercury in Aries, ruler of the South Node, is being squared by Uranus in the 12th. Okay. Unexpected loss. Okay.
Yes.
And the South Node in the eighth, unexpected loss and death. Okay. And these two
Yes.
things connected. Okay. The South Node is being squared because we look at hard aspects to the South Node. And this is where it's fascinating. Okay. South Node is squared tightly, okay, by Jupiter in the fifth, the house of children, and the sign of the twins. And also Mars in the fifth house in Gemini, squaring the South Node. So death, sudden loss, fifth house children. And to boot, we use 10-degree orbs for aspects to the South Node, the moon. And I mentioned before, moon, an hard aspect to the South Node, something connected to children, moon,
Mhm.
squaring the South Node in the eighth house. And and the moon also opposing the fifth house planets. So putting the story together, and someone gives me the information that attracted to the Holocaust, I'm telling a story about the Holocaust where someone lost their child. Okay,
Right.
that's
Oh
gonna
my
be
gosh.
that's gonna be the nature of the story. And one of the things about the square from the moon here to the South Node is that moon is in the 11th house, which is the house of groups, organizations, and the moon is in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the sign of religion. Yeah. Right. And
That
something
would make a
about
lot of
Suited for your faith.
someone's religion landed them in a concentration camp.
Right. Wow. Crazy. Whew.
I think you might have just flipped me to Placidus.
I know, because I always think of myself as having a 12th house moon, but I don't know. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
12th house moon concentration camp, that we can make that fit into the story too. See, this is the beauty of the technique because it's not just
Right.
one placement. It's like they're all telling a story. And
So
to be able to,
cohesive.
yeah, exactly. To be able to weave, it's taken years to master this, but to be able to weave the pieces to allow a story to emerge, it's so cool.
That's so cool. Wow. Okay.
It's
Hopefully
really
that
groundbreaking too.
that is groundbreaking. Whew.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've learned in this system is really to appreciate minor aspects. So
Interesting.
yeah. So
Another thing I don't
that's-
look at.
yeah. It's something I didn't look at, I didn't take seriously, but when I started looking at them, I was blown away by what I found. And
Any ones
so
in particular?
the semi-square and the sesqui-square,
Oh, okay.
especially especially with Mars involved and or Saturn, because they're considered hard aspects, and for me, they pop. They pop.
Noted.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, what would Dana's past life story be?
Okay. This one is fascinating. It's fascinating. Thing that jumps out is teacher.
Oh, that's so interesting. When I was in fourth grade, I said I wanted to be a world famous teacher.
You
Which is
were.
a thing.
You were. Okay. So South Node in the first house in Virgo. So it really is basic astrology. It's just focused through the lens of the nodal configuration. So if we're putting in the context of a past life, we're saying that someone's first house, I think of leadership, or someone's body or someone's presence is the thing. But I also think of leadership because someone we have to make choices in the first house. Okay. So how someone shows up, South Node in Virgo, someone shows up. Virgo for me is the mentor, the coach. I think a chalkboard is the coach. Okay? And it's just starting with that, it could be a lot of things. And then next thing we do is we find the ruler of the South Node, which is Mercury. Mercury in the 10th house conjunct the sun in Gemini. Teacher, teacher, zero doubt. Teacher.
I love that. It's literally the only thing I ever thought I
Yeah.
was when I was a child. I never really had a connection to a past life, even though I've always wanted one.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm
Yeah.
going to go through all of the options in this app when that feature is available.
Yeah. So this is a cool story. All right. And the thing that comes up when we see the focus on the 10th house are 10th house themes. So the themes that come along with being famous. Okay. And I imagine someone who's so famous that they can't go anywhere.
Interesting.
So famous they can't go anywhere. So
I was obsessed with fame growing up. No wonder.
of course, Mercury and the sun. And the sun is ruler of the ascendant. So Mercury and the sun conjunct in the 10th house. And they're squaring the South Node in the first. So the fame caused problems. Fame caused
Oh.
problems.
I'm Justin
Yeah.
Bieber.
Yeah, exactly. This is a different kind of fame and a different kind of problem. Imagine a coach, right? A coach, and the coach, all he really wants to do is take what's in her head and give it to the students. That's the goal, right? Is the transfer or the conveyance of information. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, in the sign of Gemini, in the 10th house, conjunct the sun. Okay, no doubt, right? It's not ruled by the same Mercury. But imagine someone, right? That's their goal, but the way everyone perceives them as so intelligent and so smart that they could never be at that level, right? That no one ever learns anything. They just sit there
Wait, this is crazy. I was thinking about this concept differently today about myself. Okay, this is fucking weird. I was thinking
Yeah.
literally about exactly that concept, but the opposite today. Anyway, Ricky, this is crazy.
Yeah, but this idea, and again, the person, the frustration of that they don't get it. It's so clear and it's so obvious, but they don't get it. They don't get it. So it's like someone being too intelligent,
That's for sure me. Yeah,
too,
I'm kidding.
too intelligent. Okay, another piece here is back to the minor aspects. Back to the minor aspects. Saturn Neptune conjunction here is making a sesquiquaire to the south.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And the image I got here is, and I had this experience to a certain extent when I played football, is sometimes I felt like I worked harder than the people around me. Okay? And it wasn't like a vain thing. I was in better shape because I put more effort. So in a sense, hard things were easier for me than they were for them. And in this sense of it's lonely at the top. Since it's lonely at the top. And the top here is about a certain level of intelligence. And so the thing that jumps out is the lonely part because the North Node is in the 7th house. And one of the ways to think of the South Node is where we were. I have to make choices. It's me. It's like selfishness, not in a negative way, but this is who I am. This is what I do. So the North Node represents the thing that we didn't have. And the thing that you didn't have was a partner. A partner. Okay? And I'd say an intellectual and the spiritual equal.
Interesting.
It has to be both. Okay. The Mercury Sun, the intellectual is check.
It's literally just like that.
It's so funny because I feel like, Dana, not to like put you on the spot, but
No, I
do
can put me on the
feel,
spot. I'm thinking so many
do
things
feel
right now.
like when we do the stuff with the podcast, you're so much more comfortable when we do it all together.
Yeah,
Like
I
you're
am. I
not
love it.
comfortable doing it. You don't love doing it alone.
No, that's so interesting. Yeah, my face. I can't stand the idea of putting my face out there in a TikTok alone. If it's like the three of us together, I'm like, oh my God, look at what we're
Yeah,
doing.
it's like the three of us. So it's almost like you're comfortable with fame in a way that only if it's with other people. You don't like it solo, which is
Yeah.
funny.
That's why I
Yeah.
spent so much time trying not to become famous. But no, it's something so interesting is literally I've really spent this past year being no longer interested in romantic relationships and really trying to reinvest all of that sort of energy into myself. And I'm also in a Leo year in annual perfection. So everything you just said reflects something that I've honestly thought, like in passing, because you said obviously my mind is like within the past week. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. And the timing of it, the timing of this conversation, transiting Uranus, conjunct the sun, squaring the south node. To me, what comes to mind is someone, right, who's known, right, as a world famous teacher, but couldn't really have a personal connection to anyone. That's, the residual would be, I don't want that again. Yeah, I don't want that again. But the world needs it.
The world needs it, Dana.
The world
I'll
needs
get
it.
on TikTok, you guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Put your face on TikTok. It's not that scary.
Yeah, my nodal return is also this summer so I guess no time like the
There's
present.
gonna be I'm telling you, there's just, well, the way it works, synchronicity, there's gonna be opportunities. Oh,
Cool.
yeah, the semi square. Yeah, this is the scary part, right?
Okay.
I think what we're picking up on is Mars in the 12th, and we could say Mars debilitated in the 12th. The ancients would go to town on this one.
I know.
Used by Saturn. Oh man, okay. What is made of that? And it is semi square the sun. Right, it is semi-square Mercury,
Yeah.
and it is semi-square the South Node.
Oh, I didn't know about the node.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one again. Mars is the sign of violence. 12th house is the house of loss, and a hard aspect to the South Node, which is you in this case. You know that there is a violent end. A violent end. I think that Socrates.
I won't know.
Yeah, but so Socrates, one of the smartest people ever, and he was too smart and he was corrupting the kids, and so they sentenced him to death. Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah. Right, but so again, this is how it works for me, right? When I see a theme in a chart, a movie, sometimes a song, a historical, where they don't just pop into my head.
It's like
and
Gemini astrology, I think, because I
Yes.
do the same thing.
Exactly what it is. Yeah. So like the extremity of that, right, is I sign that 100%. Not saying you were Socrates, but the extremity of that. I say, of course not. I wouldn't go that far because the extremity of it is at that level where that's the image that came to me. So
That's very
I
cool.
trust it. I trust it.
The South, I love that idea. I'm going to think about it all day, but having the South Node in my first house, I don't really think it sounds ridiculous to entertain that. It's just fun to think about.
Yeah.
But now I believe it.
Yeah, exactly. So here's how it actually show up in real life is I tell a story like that and some random person that you're around in a day or two or a week mention something about Socrates related to you.
Okay.
Just like, even if whatever, something in you has to take your intelligence more seriously, even if you don't want to.
Fuck.
Dana. You
Elise
gotta
is so
do
happy
it.
that
I know. I'm so happy.
that's one. This is like the coolest experience I've had in some time.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
we're so lucky to have a
Truly.
friend of the pod like Ricky and do these crazy readings. Because if you don't have access to talk to Ricky like we do, you can talk to him through Leela.
Sure.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to try this out. This is going to
I
be
know, I'm
so
gonna-
fun. And I can't wait to play with all the eras.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is
Yes.
going to be
I
great.
can't wait yet to get into all the text messages of what you were. And put
Yes,
there.
my other like past life inclination is my family astrologer thinks that like me and my sister were part of the Medici family.
Oh, I
back in
totally see
Italy.
that. That makes
Oh,
perfect
wow.
sense. You guys absolutely were.
I
Yeah.
can see that.
And she like sent us a photo and we're like, wait, like a painting of them. Obviously not a photograph, a photograph of the Medicis now. And we were like, wait, this actually looks like us. It was crazy.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
It was cool.
Yeah. Especially if there's because the 8th house is inheritance and the ruler of the South Node is in the second, resources.
Resources.
Yeah. So again, if someone said that story and I look at the South Node and I can make the connection, that's the direction I'm going now.
Wait,
Amazing.
Ricky, Do we get to find out what your past life story is?
Yeah, can you
Oh,
tell us one of
yes. Oh,
yours? If you
100%.
don't
Yeah.
mind sharing?
Of course. Yeah. So my South Node mine's cool.
Of course it is. You're a cool
So
person.
my South Node is in the 8th house, like yours. And when the South Node is in the 8th house, the past life story is rooted potentially in death. Okay. That's on the table 100%. Because the 8th house is a house of death. And Stephen's joke about the South Node in the 8th, in a past life, you died. And that,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I would that line
What-
actually from the book.
Yeah, and some people's death is death, but some people's death is memorable. And I think that's the point, right? You think of those last moments, tick, tick, there's something going on in those last moments. Okay. Ooh. And my South Node is in the side of Aries. Okay. So the god of war, and it's conjunct the planet Mars, which is another god of war. So fighting to the death, okay? Fighting to the death. And opposing the South Node ruler, Mars, is Pluto in the first. Image that Steve told is, it's funny, there's a song coming sometimes, a song by Steel Pulse, reggae song called Soldiers. And one of the lines is, we had our shields, they had their guns, prepare for the slaughter. Yeah. And in the story Steve tells, where I am fighting for my family, my village, okay, and they get bigger weapons. I'm mowed down in the last moments, thinking, what's going to happen to my family?
Whoa.
Ooh, I could see that. It's
Mm.
visceral.
Yeah.
Whew.
You're dressed like a gladiator in my head.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, and the nature of the South Node is oftentimes it tends, at least the first half of life, the theme tends to repeat. And sometimes it repeats in our life, and sometimes it repeats as a memory. I don't know why this thing is so important to me or why I'm so attracted to this. And for me, it was football. And the kind of people watch the way I play football. It's like I run full speed into people twice my size, and then I get celebrated for it. Martial arts. Okay, I have Venus conjunct Mars, ruler of the South. And this idea of the love of violence, the love of violence. And as a kid, or the first day of full pads practice, we had a drill where we just go full speed at each other. And I saw it, and at first I was like, oh my God. And then I said, I'm going to go to the back of the line and just watch. And then when it was my turn, I realized if you just go as hard as you can, that's you're going to have the best chance of winning. And I went against the best guy, and we went boom, and it was a stalemate. And everyone was jumping up and down. And I was giving high fives. I was like, yeah.
That's
Oh
so
my
cool.
gosh. Wow.
There's a memory. And again, you can see I was a Heisman Trophy winner, that there's something about me that made football easy,
Right.
natural,
Natural.
put my body on the line.
It's like more than just physical, it's spiritual.
Yes,
Yes.
it has to be more than
Yeah,
physical
of
because
course.
it's like you can't get to that next level without there being some kind of spiritual, mental.
Memory.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for me, the 8th house and Pluto, a lot of people don't talk about it, but to me, those are extremely spiritual symbols.
Hey,
Because
they really are.
you think of spirit, right? In all kinds of, even religions, right? One of the things that they always have to deal with is death. So the nature of when the physical body is dying, the only thing you really have left is spirit. So it's an 8th house. It confronts us with the question of spirit, of our spirituality. And we ain't talking about the body.
Wow.
That's profound.
So profound. Wow.
Also makes me feel better about Pluto in tight square to my ascendant. So
Yes. About it. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. We learned a lot of lessons today. Dana, what lesson did you take away?
I can't even be serious enough to talk about it because his reading was so bang on, honestly. But everything hit so close, even if I don't emote about it. I was like, this is so crazy. And also, I feel like you really did put something together. Like you put these two things together for me, which is like this, why like I had such a weird, persistent sort of fixation on fame as a child before I even like really understood, I think, what it was. And then once I did, it faded. Like I don't really remember wanting to be famous as, I don't know, a junior high student or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I also, for sure, I just always felt whatever happened in the past, either I was terrible or it really ended very badly for me. So
Yeah. You know, it'd be terrible because the Jupiter Venus, yeah, beautiful conjunction, right? Is conjunct the South, is conjunct Mercury, the South Node ruler. So the theme that when I was looking at this the first time, what kept coming up was jealousy.
Oh.
okay,
And sometimes if someone is used to being right, And there's times where you know you're right, but it's so much that other people feel dumb. And if someone's not aware of it, they don't soften it and then let them be right sometimes. And that can increase a certain kind of jealousy.
No lie, jealousy was one of the first concepts I learned about because from my mom who has Venus in Scorpio. As the first time I was conscious, I already knew what jealousy was, but I don't remember where she taught that to me. But yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
God, I could do this. This is fascinating.
Yeah, we grew up Catholic, so
Yeah.
jealousy was always a sin. You
Yeah.
always learn to be guilty about something. So
I'm kidding. I feel guilty all the time.
The piece that really jumped out to me, if we can enter it, it's like, it's the satisfaction of everyone thinking that you're brilliant. And there's that, but at the same time, it becomes a blockage from anyone even learning anything. So even though it's brilliance on the outside for show, it doesn't translate into being able to anyone else to be able to pick up on it. And that's what invites the jealousy. And if someone is in that state, you can appreciate why they wouldn't even appreciate it. They just would think, why is everything so dumb?
definitely heard Dana ask that question before. Why is everyone so dumb? Dana, I don't know.
What I find with easy aspects, trines, Jupiter, conjunct, is that most people don't see it as a gift. They just see why aren't other people? Why isn't it as easy for other people?
Why can't you just talk to everyone and have a really fun conversation?
Exactly.
Exactly.
11th house.
And I learned that my fear of motherhood / child rearing has a lot to do with the fear of child loss or death or just, I don't know. I guess I didn't really think of it like that because part of me was always like, how can I do this? I'm not ready for this. But
You
like
were
at the
born
same,
to be a mother. You were born to be so much, but you've just always been such a mother.
I have. Dana says I'm her moon mother.
Yeah, it's time.
She always says what she knows that I'm not friends with her anymore if I stop like asking her if she's okay or like where the fuck is she? Which is exactly what a mother would do. They're asking me, where are you? Where are you? Okay.
Lollapalooza, you would have sustenance.
I would. I'd always have like water and snacks and whatever napkins in my bag.
People say that Saturn Capricorn is the father, but to me, it's the mother.
Totally agree.
Really?
The crone.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think Saturn has a safety urge. And if you think of whose responsibility is it to keep the child safe, right? To me, mom comes first.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Crazy. Amazing. Wow. Ricky, this was such a fun conversation. We could talk to you obviously for hours and hours, but we are so grateful for you to give us these past life readings. And also, we can't wait to look at all the cool scenarios you came up with on the app. This is going to be
It's
so
the
great.
AI. I just trained the AI how to think about the symbols and what to do with them.
Very cool.
You can take credit, though, I think.
You can take credit.
I'm an engineer behind the scenes.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
I'm so excited too. This was so illuminating. I'm
so
literally
illuminating. Where can people find you? Where can people find the app?
Yeah, so the app is on Google Play and App Store, and it's Lila, means the divine play. And yeah, so Lila is our flagship app. The AI app, the Pro Tools that I'm working on is called Lila Pro. So we got
Cool. Amazing. We'll drop the link in the show notes so you guys can check it out for yourself. But this was so great. Thank you so much, Ricky.
Thank you so much, Ricky.
this was fun. Thank you guys.
We had such a great time talking with astrologer Ricky Williams about his app Lila. We will drop the links to that app in the show notes, and we are very excited to check out this new feature.
I haven't been this excited about astrology and I can't remember what since I started doing astrology.
Dana is rejuvenated, reborn.
Hey, I'm reborn.
All right, with that, I'm Elyse.
I'm Dana.
And this is Allegedly Astrology.
Hi. I'm smarter than you.